This is the Nerd Academy Movie Club, Episode 2, Wild Wild West. The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week. Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy Movie Club, where I still can't get over how much I love that intro music. I am still hung up on it.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
I'm still not over it. That shit is so hot. It is so fire. And even still, it does not hold a candle to what Devin and I reviewed, at least the music video tie-in for it. Which is how we're going to wrap up today's show, because don't think for a second we could review this movie and not talk about that music video.
No, we're talking about it.
Devin, what movie are we doing this week?
We're going over Wild Wild West, 1999 Western action, PG-13, hour 47 long, with some serious talent behind it, to be honest with you. Between Kevin Kline, Mr. Will Smith, as we all know, Mr. 90s man himself, Kenneth Branagh, Salma Hayek, just like a recipe for what could have been beautiful. Not that it wasn't beautiful. Actually, I retract that. A recipe with a few expired ingredients. Let's put it that way. Still edible. Not the greatest reviews on Yelp. And might make you feel a little queasy, might make you feel a little whatever. But still a fun ride nonetheless. Jarod, start us off.
I absolutely love that description. That a few expired ingredients and a couple bad reviews on Yelp. Yeah, I have made it no secret. This is one of my guilty pleasure movies. I think this movie is a banger, and I will not apologize for that. I may have walked back some statements on movies in the past. This will not be one of them. I spent almost the entirety of the audio commentary, which you can find on our Patreon at the $5 tier, talking about just how much this movie makes me happy and how much dumb shit in this movie just puts the biggest, dumbest smile on my face, regardless of how asinine and insane it is. But yeah, like you were saying, there's some incredible talent here. Kenneth Branagh, an amazing actor, classically trained. Salma Hayek, Kevin Kline. Will Smith speaks for himself, which, granted, it's not like he's above the off stinker here and there, but that does not change the fact that he is great in this and is, in my opinion, playing one of the most Will Smith characters in the entirety of his catalog. Between the yells, the "oh hell no's," the jokes, this is as Will Smith gets, in my opinion.
I totally agree with you. I agree with you, but I also don't think it's a bad thing.
No,
because
I say that as a compliment.
As an actor, as a performer, as an entertainer, is very good at his job. Otherwise, like he wouldn't be relevant today. We wouldn't have reviewed another one of his movies last week that came out 2 years ago. So, very entertaining. He's got a formula. He doesn't always stick to it, but he knows what works for him. And in this sense, it really worked with like who he was playing off of in Kevin Kline. Because like those two characters both like, you're not really sure. There's never like a clear sidekick. I feel like in their dynamic,
Yeah.
maybe as like actors or in certain situations, like there's always like a take charge, like there's like an independent shining moment. And like it's very important that one needs the other.
Yes,
So,
they are
like,
very much co-leads here.
yes, they're very like pushing each other, expanding ideologies. It's a partnership that works on the screen. Very entertaining to watch. Definitely a part of this movie that, like, for someone that isn't maybe as nostalgic about it as Jarod is, or maybe like it's goofy and I'm not as into like the goofier movies, it's still very fun. Still a good watch. Get a 6-pack with your friends, like get a large pizza, laugh. It just feels very like, we talked about this before, but like Scooby-Doo-esque, like
Yeah.
the meddling kids, the over-the-top villain, the humor. It feels like it's geared for like 13-year-old boys with like the humor, like the abnormality of it, the like outrageous concepts of like, you know, like the banter between Will Smith and Loveless, like between the race thing and like him being half a man and shit like that, and then like seeing Salma Hayek's ass and like like she's a breath of fresh air. Like,
Let's get some shut ass.
yeah, like those moments of like it's goofy, it's fun. But again, as someone that like wasn't really doesn't look for that in a movie, the chemistry between Will Smith and Kevin Kline is like something that as an actor I really loved. Like I could get behind it. I could watch them talk all day.
And I like that, like, and these two scenes happen back to back with each other with regards to Artemis and Jim's chemistry. That you have the master of the mechanical stuff speech where he just kind of comes unglued with Jim being, you know, like President Grant says at the beginning, shoot first, shoot second, shoot third, and after everybody's dead, try to ask a question or two. So after you have that being such a sticking point between the two of them, Jim's antics almost getting them killed for like the upteenth time, Gordon gets to have his like, I need you to shut up, sit down, and let me work, sweet Jesus, master of the mechanical stuff speech, which is so funny. And then it is immediately followed up by Gordon getting to get a peek inside of Jim's life and the life that he lived. And their whole friendship culminates in that scene, in that moment where it all clicks for Gordon. Why Jim has such a vendetta against the now deceased at this point, Bloodbath McGrath. Why Jim is like, we need to take out Loveless now.
Just to be clear, we're talking about the post buzzsaw chase scene.
Yes.
And then after that, the campfire scene.
Yes.
Just for the people that have seen the movie, just want to know like where we're at, what we're talking about.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But with those two scenes back to back, I really like that we get a funny moment where Jim has to like recognize that Gordon knows what he is doing and to get out of his way. And for Gordon to understand that Jim has this need to avenge and where it comes from. And the way that Gordon says, Jim, I'll help you get him, is just, it makes my heart so full. And it's that buddy cop bullshit that I love, where they both recognize this isn't just about saving the country. This is truly deeply personal.
I think it's also a realization that like we really are like the right men for the job.
Yeah.
Like it's not just that President Grant, like we're the best two marshals or whatever. Like circumstantially, we are like the ones to do it, like the ones to save it or the ones to blow it. And I think once like they both kind of figured that out in a beat like within each other, like Will Smith's undeniable purpose, and then Artemis's like complete and total support of that, on top of like their two different personalities together, it just seems like, you know, match made in heaven. And like I can blow that relationship all day long, but like it's cool that in a movie that is goofy, that is fun, that is whatever you want to call it, it can have a beat like that.
It really does have a heart to it. Like, yeah. And I think that's its biggest strength.
It's a little too little. Not that you need a lot though in an action comedy, like cowboy cyberpunky kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just also like that moment, as great as it is, feels like an outlier in the rest of the script. Like it feels like that was thoughtful, that's important. And then you also have like the really horrible jokes and like, you know, the rest of the fucking script.
Well, I will say there's something to be said for what humor works here and what doesn't. Because most of like the big laughs either come from really weird circumstance, the natural humor that comes from Jim and Artemis's dynamic, and that kind of thing. A lot of the actual jokes are just dripping with that cringy 90s no homo bullshit.
Oh, absolutely.
They're like, you know, there's like the touch my breast scene. Like there are some moments where like you can't help but laugh at Loveless, but not because like his bigotry is funny, but because he's using such like 1860s terms. Yeah. Like we talked in the version of this episode that got lost to the wolves about him calling Jim a well-endowed blackamoor.
Blackamoor was the word that loop just like it's at least he's creative ish. Like ish, you know, he's consistent in that evil mastermind sense.
I'm sorry, Devin, what were you saying?
No, go ahead. I was thinking like, well, you finish your thought and then like we'll get to like the rest of the plot of the movie.
Yeah, no, it was just that Loveless's racism is just so potent, and I get it because he's an ex-Confederate who, you know, he's a bastard. That's to be expected, especially in this era, especially in this type of movie. But there's just something about the way it's framed that elicits a very uncomfortable laugh from me every time. It's not that it's funny, it's just that like gross out laugh of I don't know how else to react to this other than to laugh at the very weird and specific things he's saying. But as you were saying, Devin.
Just super. Well, I think we hit the nail on the head there as far as like opening thesis goes and like what we really liked about the movie, which like there's more to like about this movie than just, you know, Kevin Kline being a consistent badass that like read the script and ran with it. Or not Kevin Kline. Bana. Loveless.
Kenneth
the actor's
Branagh.
name. Yes, thank you. Jesus. Bana. Eric Bana. Dumbass.
Yeah, not Hulk.
No, not Hulk. Fuck that movie. I don't want to watch that.
Oh, we're definitely going to do Hulk at some point. I absolutely want to do like a really bad superhero movie month. Like bottom of the barrel superhero movies.
Catwoman. The Hulk. Daredevil. Elektra, I guess. Please don't make me watch Elektra.
I won't make you watch Elektra. I've not seen Elektra. Right. Daredevil's another one that I have like aggressive childhood nostalgia for.
Because it's also goofy.
Yeah, it's so silly. It's so silly.
It's silly and it's fun. But if you want to talk about like you know, movies that weren't supposed to be horrible and like were supposed to be like strong narrative and like $1 billion box office, then we're going to talk about Batman versus Superman and Justice League.
I have a Zack Snyder month planned too. Don't blow it.
We're really off topic.
We really are. Anyway, but yeah, the
Rest of the plot,
Yeah, the plot. Put that in air quotes. The plot.
loose terms.
So Will Smith, Jim West, and Artemis Gordon, Kevin Kline, are both hot on the heels of General Bloodbath McGrath, an infamous Confederate soldier who, by the looks of it, still has like a treasonous cadre of troops that he's leading still.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Which, again, the world building here is if it's not Will Smith and Kevin Kline's chemistry, it's the world building is the strongest element.
Yeah.
But
it's so fun, like as a concept, especially when like we'll talk about it later. But like Lovelace's plan, like so fun. Please continue.
No, so I just realized. Hold on.
Oh no.
No, you're good. Nothing's wrong. I'm just turning off the other headphones to avoid a weird echo. That's all.
Cool.
Yeah. So Jim and Gordon are both on the hot on the heels of Bloodbath McGrath, who's up to something. They can't tell what, but it involves the kidnapping of all of the top scientists in the United States. Eventually, it leads them to the mansion of the presumed dead Arliss Lovelace, a mad scientist from the Confederate era who is working on a handful of super weapons to join forces with other countries and nations and peoples that the United States is screwed over. He's teaming up to give the original 13 colonies back to Great Britain. He's trying to give sections of the South back to Mexico and Spain. There's a section of land he's planning on giving back to the Native Americans. And there's a huge chunk towards the northwestern area that he wants to keep for himself. Lovelace lost his legs trying to pilot one of the prototypes of his weird steampunk cowboy tanks. Get used to the term steampunk cowboy because we're going to use it a lot. Because it is the coolest aesthetic ever in this movie. It is
the coolest aesthetic and it's the perfect description. So, like, warranted.
But Lovelace lost his legs piloting this tank, causing the massacre at New Liberty, which was a freed slave town that had Jim West's parents in it. However, Bloodbath McGrath took credit for it. That's where the nickname came from. And Jim has spent his whole life hunting down McGrath, or at least the last 5 years, hunting down McGrath, thinking he was the one responsible for the death of his family. When in reality, it was Lovelace, who also has a bone to pick with any leftover Confederates because in his mind, they betrayed him by surrendering to the Union at Appomattox. Eventually, our heroes are either captured or presumed dead when they pull a last-minute heist on Lovelace's small city-state of Spider Canyon. There's no way to just like naturally get to the mech. There's no way to just eventually get there. But the scientists that Lovelace has captured are building him a giant 80-foot tall spider mech that he plans to use, apparently, to conquer the United States. This thing shoots fireballs. It is this steampunk monstrosity. Inside of it, Lovelace has these weird cyborg super soldiers that never are brought out to fight anybody until now.
One at a time.
One at a time. You have one with swords for hands. You have another one that is a straight up android. And then there's a guy with a shovel with a spike in his head. And then there's like a hillbilly with 2 teeth who knows karate.
I forgot about that guy. Yeah.
Who learned how to fight from a China man. Yikes. To quote John Mulaney, the laziest of the racial slurs. So they all throw down. Lovelace eventually decides he'll do it himself. Comes down to face down Jim. activates a set of spider legs inside of his motorized wheelchair, 1869. Beats the tar out of Jim. Then Gordon steps in, shoots the oil out of the spider legs, causing a final battle between Jim and Loveless, where Jim risks his life to kill Loveless. That's one thing I have an issue with just about that fight, that thinking about it more didn't occur to me until like the other day. I don't like that they frame Jim's killing of Loveless as like a heroic sacrifice. Like it's really weird the way that's framed. That like beyond just killing Loveless, Jim giving his life is a bigger thing than that. And they do the whole, but you're just yellow, aren't you, boy? And granted, like he hits him with that last boy, which is probably the straw that broke the racist camel's
Probably the
back.
nail in the coffin.
But that final stinger aside, him calling him a coward and all of that, I still think it's weird that they frame Jim getting ready to sacrifice himself to take out Loveless. Feels like more of a sacrifice than just, I'm going to put this monster down. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's always like I feel like it's trying to look really win-winny. Like, okay, Jim executes his vendetta, like gets his revenge. Loveless is also like, you know, a like insane criminal villain mastermind that needs to get put down because like his plan is like, you know, ruin the United States. But I agree with you that like something about it just didn't really work for me, or didn't feel as redeeming. Well, not redeeming, rewarding, that's the word, as I wanted to. I agree with you there.
Yeah, it's because they frame it as like a weird sacrifice, I think. And they also play on that whole, but you're just a coward thing. Like, we haven't seen Jim run into every situation head first, prepared to get shot and killed.
Yeah.
We see him
Like,
get shot off of the spider mech. You know, it's not like he's afraid of death. So that, it's just the whole pacing of that last bit where they're dangling out of the mech from Loveless's wheelchair. That part confuses me a little bit still, and I was never able to put my finger on like what felt wrong about it, but I think it's the fact that it's framed as a sacrifice, but that's neither here nor there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's the plot. They ride Jim and Gordon after I did it again. Jim and Artemis ride off into the sunset on the spider mech after they've defeated Loveless and saved the United States. And then the song happens, and I guess the whole ending of the movie changes. I don't know. We'll save that for the end. Don't worry.
Save that for the end. Yep. All right. So smaller plot elements. Salma Hayek is in this movie, as we previously mentioned. Salma Hayek has moments of like what felt like the character making strong intentional choices. And we also have moments of Salma Hayek's character seeming almost like a half-wit. And that was frustrating for me. Were there funny moments? Sure. Do I like a nice looking butt? Sure. Did it do enough for me? Not really. Like, if she wasn't in this movie, I would be pretty indifferent about it. I don't think she was handled or written well. I don't think we've already established that a lot of this movie wasn't written well. It seems like concept first, script second. We already sort of touched on in the audio commentary the producer of Superman Flyby, like forcing his ideas of that movie, which never happened with Nicolas Cage. Where again, you said it before, it was Brainiac, and he had like this mech spider, you know, comic accurate, makes sense, sure. And he just really wanted that spider to be in the movie and like the spider imagery. And I think they were like justifying that by creating a villain that has like half a body and he's like super jealous of all these people with legs. So he attaches the idea of spiders because they have so many legs and like overcompensating for things. But also just like the mech is not scary. Like, I hope we can all agree on that. It looks sick. Like, steampunk giant mech spider looks like it has crane-esque arm appendages things and like the wheel or like its gears or like old wagon wheels. Like, it looks awesome. They put a lot of thought in the look of this guy. But forcing the spiders, forcing a concept into a movie that really didn't have a whole lot of business being in. Concept first, concept with characters and then the script. I feel like poor Salma really paid the price.
She absolutely did. Rita Escobar is the least thought out character.
Easy. Like,
and the funny thing is, you can see kind of what they were trying to go for was that she was this femme fatale who is talking out of both sides of her mouth because her end game is to get back to her husband, Guillermo. And I'm not going to just lizard brain myself into calling him Pablo Escobar 3 times like we did in the Lost version of this episode.
Nice.
I'm calling myself out for it now because I kept like word associationing myself. But anyway, they want to do this thing where she's this femme fatale who is able to use her beauty and her looks as a weapon to seduce and distract all the dipshit men around her. And again, and I think we said this in the audio commentary, without any of the resources or intel that Jim or Artemis have, she successfully tracked Bloodbath McGrath down to fat cans at the beginning of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And she does not have the kind of U.S. Army, U.S. Marshal juice that Jim or Artemis have. That's impressive. Clearly she knows what the shit she's doing.
Presenting her as very intelligent and like capable.
And the only people who are able to foil her are Jim and Artemis. Because Artemis keeps shoving her out of the way to get to McGrath, thinking she's just another hooker at this brothel. Not realizing that they're both, kind of working the same beat. There's that really funny moment back at Lovelace's mansion where Gordon's like, I don't forget a face. I've seen you somewhere. And they never bring it up that she probably beat them, the fat cans.
No, she did, because she got hired before. Like saying, oh, I'm an entertainer and like...
Yeah.
So, like, she was there at least a fucking day, or at least, like, 12 hours before.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
she beats them, the fat cans, and then is at Lovelace's mansion before them.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're saying, like, she's one step ahead of Jim and Artemis. But then you have the scenes later where she's on the Wanderer, and then she kind of starts to turn into TNA, and it gets weird and gross. Where it turns into, oh, there was a mistake in Louisiana on purpose. What's the point? If her endgame is to save her husband, what is the use of playing stupid to woo Jim or Artemis into helping you?
I get that it's like kind of like securing an ally.
Yeah.
Like manipulation through sexual attention or just attraction, like, sure. But it just feels so much more genuine than that. Like, it feels like she's, like, not trying to do that.
Exactly. Plus, you add in that, again, 90s movie, like, they have a really weird relationship with the way that, like, the movie frames her as being without moral, even though the men around her are lusting after her just as hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to reconcile her lying about Escobar being her father to Jim and Artemis so that they're still interested in her, which is already weird. And then you have the way that she's like talking sexy to Loveless back aboard the Wanderer once he takes it.
That one, out of those examples, that one felt the more like, why? Like,
exactly, because it feels like she's about to betray them.
Yeah.
And she doesn't. That goes nowhere. It's just her talking sexy to Loveless. And as sinister as Loveless is, as much of a bastard as he is, it doesn't seem like Rita's in immediate danger. So I don't see any reason to include a scene where she's like, "Oh, I've missed you." I don't understand. I don't understand why that scene is necessary. It's almost as unnecessary as the breast of fresh ass scene, where she's wearing Jim's long johns with the back hanging off. Like, I don't.
At least those things are consistent. Like the childish, goofy humor, her using her different charms on different guys in different ways to sort of like disarm them towards her. And she's consistent in that, but still, like, it just like those moments of like on purpose, like it feels like the script like gives her a shitload of credit for things, or maybe we just want to give her credit for things, and then it's also just like, never mind, like comedic relief in like a woman in the 1800s, and like, or a Latina woman to be more specific in the 1800s, like. Just, it's very frustrating. Didn't work for me in this film.
And and that also goes in with all of the Loveless girls who are there to fulfill very specific tasks. Like, you have Munitia, the weapons expert, Miss Lippen Reader, who is there to just read lips. There's a third one who I don't know what they are doing there. I don't even remember her name. Clearly, he's trying to recruit Rita, and they're all from like different countries and shit. So he wants Rita to be his
West or East.
Yeah, and then there's Miss East, who's literally there to be a really uncomfortable Asian stereotype, make out with Jim, have a gratuitous ass shot, and then get shot in the chest.
Yeah.
Like, East doesn't do anything but just have an ass and get fridged. That's it.
Get fridged.
And like, it's such an uncomfortable thing. Like, this movie's relationship with female characters is so weird to watch. Like, I get it's the 90s. I get it was a different time. Whatever. Like, well, we made the joke during the audio commentary, I think, and probably in the lost version of this episode, where it was like, you can tell this movie was written by 4 white dudes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, okay, like, we'll give the movie credit. For a movie set in the 1800s in the United States, there is, like, a lot of not just white dudes. And I will give it, that's an interesting choice, especially considering this show is the movie is based off of an old Western TV show. And off the top of my head, I don't know if the whole premise of the show was a black cowboy army captain who used to be a slave. Like, I'm pretty sure the TV version of Jim West is a white guy. And they actually gave him a different character and expanded upon that and made him more interesting. I kept saying, this whole universe that is created in this movie would make for such an interesting, like, Western-themed D&D campaign.
I agree.
You know, because there's all these moving parts that, like you said, are just so concept forward. Former slave, raised by Native Americans, wants revenge on these Confederate generals. It's such a cool concept. It's such a cool driving force of a story that falls apart with those elements. And maybe it's nostalgia because I watched this movie too much when I was a kid and was not capable of understanding why this movie didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And was just really impressed by the concept and really entertained by the concept. But watching it as an adult, like, even I struggle to stay on the, Wild Wild West. Like, I try really, it requires the nostalgia for me to not just completely blow the movie off. And that's not even taking into consideration the really weird no homo humor.
90s, I guess.
Again,
I don't want to just like dismiss it, but like written by 4 white dudes in the 90s. Like,
yeah. And you can tell. Because there's the weird, like, okay, now touch my breast. Oh, I'm hard. And then, you have the conductor. Oh, I knew it. What the fuck does that mean? What is the punchline of that joke? I knew it mean.
Just.
That's not to mention, like, the weird, and it's the scene where they accidentally activate the magnets. And, like, their necks are stuck together. Yeah. And then, like, the shoe knife gets stuck to Gordon's neck. Like, that's funny. And then it turns into the magnet attaches to Gordon's belt buckle and Will's face is in his junk. And you have the, hey, when you tell this story, don't tell your grandkids this part. Like, funny, face next to dick. Shut up. Like, everybody involved here is better than that. Like, it is such low-hanging fruit and so frustrating. And I know it's the era, and I get all of that. It doesn't make it any less cringy.
Yeah.
So, that aside, there are still some really funny moments. A lot of it is just due to the way that Will Smith and Kevin Kline bounce off of each other.
I agree.
Will Smith, I don't know if Will Smith really wanted to go full Renaissance man at one point and maybe consider doing stand-up. But I can tell you his delivery during the hanging scene is absolutely a testament to the idea that maybe he could have pulled it off.
Mm-hmm.
Just that pacing and that, first word, red, color of passion, fire, power. Second word, neck. I don't have anything for neck, but I'll think of something. You still got red, though. Like, that's really funny. Mm-hmm. And, like, again, that's the kind of timing that a stand-up normally has and that pacing, which I enjoyed a lot.
I agree.
I've been rambling a lot, Devin. I don't know if I'm, like, stomping over anything you have to say here.
I feel like we're going over important parts about the movie. I feel like cringe is a good word for a lot of it. Because, like, when you have goofy and you have fun and big concepts, you're going to have cringe because it's not going to work for everybody. People are going to be expecting different things from the movie. It's just, like, what happens. And so, like, although we can recognize a lot of the cringe, just because we can recognize it doesn't mean it's justified. Doesn't make it any more redeemed by just because, like, we know that it's cringy and, like, it's maybe not supposed to be, but, like, they're not mad if it is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Like a lack of effort, a lack of, like, thorough intention. And like, I hate feeling dismissive about things, but, like, it feels like your only option with this movie is just to have fun with it. And if you can't, sit down and have fun and embrace the cringe and blah, 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 then you're probably not going to have a very good time with Wild Wild West.
I think that's an amazing point, though, because there are elements of this movie that I can have fun with Steampunk Cowboy. I can have fun with 80-foot spider mech in 1869. I can have fun with these almost Batman-style gadgets on Western characters.
Yeah.
I can have fun with trigger-happy army captain and, cerebral strategic inventor guy, and the way they play off of each other. That's
Yeah.
fun. And the story
Absolutely.
can throw as much asinine, ridiculous shit at me. I can have fun with that and do have fun watching this movie.
Absolutely.
Like,
Even in those cringiest moments, it's still just like you're looking at it and you just got like a grin on your face. You're just like, no way. Or like unreal. Just like,
it's the
it's just,
like exactly what you're saying with like those weird moments where like it's after the train gets destroyed or whatever, and Jim's just like, hey, Artemis, do you know how to ride? And out of nowhere, two horses are right there.
yeah, that the transitions in this movie are so like, oh my God, like was Will Smith like pressured to go shoot Men in Black 2? Like it feels like some things were just done so lazily and just want us to like not pay attention to it.
And
And a
that's
lot
the
of that's
stuff.
definitely in the transitions for me, especially in like the back half of the movie.
I agree with you on that. The back half is very like, okay, we like let's just get to the spider.
Yeah, like let's wrap shit up. Only put in what's important.
I
Running out of budget.
I have an easy time moving past stuff like the magical horses that just show up, and Will's ability to get to and from Spider Canyon in time, and like the weird, almost miraculous time that passes between them building the flying machine. All of that stuff I can look past because I'm having fun with this movie. And I don't necessarily seek out turn off your brain and eat some popcorn type movies. But when they're there, they're there. And when they work, they work. It makes it harder for me to turn off my brain, at least me, when there is the weird, like, Selma Hayek stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of get stuck on the fact. Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. What were you saying?
I was going to talk about like the Will Smith dancing scene towards the end of the movie, like trying to get Artemis out of the handcuffs.
It's
and like
so bad.
It's so long. It's so bad because it goes on for so long. Like there's a difference between this, and I've made this comparison before. I'm going to do it again. There's a difference between this and the dance battle to save the universe in Guardians of the Galaxy. You know why? Because it was short. That dance battle probably happened for like 25 seconds of like awkward, trying to pass it off to Gamora. It comes right back. What are you doing? I'm trying to distract you. And then like an amazing sequence follows that. This goes on for like 2.5 minutes of like dancing on Loveless, dancing around the room. And it's so uncomfortable. You're in a room filled with the world's best scientists and like
world leaders and Confederate soldiers.
Yeah. This guy doesn't even have a dick. And then he's going over and he's like grinding on Artemis. And like, I get it. Like he's trying to get him out of the handcuffs. I get that. I get that that might take a second or two to play out, but it goes on for too long. And that was maybe my least favorite part of the movie, after I'd say like that 20-30 second range of just at first being like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And then eventually just being like, oh, it's still going on. And
that plus again, where the movie gets really weird with its politics. I don't know what the objective was of Jim, like of the point of the weird noises he's making while he's dancing. Like, I don't like it's again, it's just one of those really weird, like, oh yeah, this was definitely written by white guys, where he's just going like the whole scene. Like, what is the trilling? Watching the movie with captions on is hysterical because it just says trilling, just in parentheses for almost that entire scene.
Yep.
It's so strange. Because like Artemis getting into drag, and I get that they're trying to show that like Jim is like accommodating to Artemis's tactics, and he's adopting the way that Artemis thinks, where you can't just go in guns a-blazing because he will get himself and everybody killed. So he needs to go in disguise. Cool. I like that they tried to do that. But the fact that it keeps coming back to, oh, isn't it funny that Gordon dresses like a girl?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I don't hate it. I hate it whenever it's like, because like him dressing up as a girl in the beginning, like trying to like hypnotize McGrath and shit like that.
Oh my god,
Like,
the hypnotic boobies. It's so
yeah, like it's funny, it's Austin Powersy, it's Scooby Dooey. Well, maybe not the tits part, but like it's Austin Powersy, it's goofy, it's fun, and it also sets up like the party scene later where Will Smith like mistakes that a very normal human woman for Artemis, and like then that gives us the amazing scene of his like audition stand up outside, and like again another piece of technology from Artemis saving him with like the elastic noose. And I don't hate that because of the payoff it gets, and like he is a master of disguise, and it's reinforced when he pretends to be the president in the beginning, and like very almost weirdly suspenseful when Will Smith's just like, "Who are you?" "I'm President Grant." No, wrong answer. And it's just like,
I love when
I
he
didn't know
cocks
what
his
was
gun
going
and
on.
that's what breaks Gordon. That's probably the best part of that too. It's just like I'm the president of the United. I'm Artemis Gordon.
Yeah, and I
it's
love like
so well paced.
those consistent character moments with Gordon too. Like there's a couple times where Gordon's rambling, and then something happens and he just flips a switch. And like that situational humor really works for me. And that's like very happy Kevin Kline's in this movie. But as you were saying, very sorry.
It just goes on for forever. And
yes,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's weird. It feels gross the way that the trilling, and again, there's that whole weird. Oh my god, Loveless like comes up with a name for Will immediately when he shows up. Like he calls her like Ethonia or something really weird like that.
I don't remember.
Immediately he says something. And it creeps me out. And again, I know Loveless is the villain, so like having Loveless do a lot of the weird racial stuff like makes the audience dislike him more.
Yeah.
And kind of like Gemini Man, how we were complaining about how the movie can't pick between being a popcorn movie and like a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah, like wanting you to think and also wanting you to forget.
Yeah.
Or not put extra thought into shit.
Exactly. Pay close attention here and then like just shovel popcorn into your face in the next scene. This movie accidentally has some really cool subtle moments.
I agree.
That is hilarious. Really cool
beats.
Yeah, like, and I know we talked about this at length. Just like McGrath, who is kind of this great glue for the movie for the first half.
Yeah, like how he's the concept of his character.
Yeah,
where he's been, who he's impacted. That roadmap works, I think, really, really well. All the way up until his death, like betraying our big baddie in Loveless, being the root of the anger for Jim, and then eventually being the informational source that reroutes Jim's anger back to Loveless in the first place. And it's not like McGrath wasn't a bad guy. He was a horrible person, but in that sense, like he took credit for something that he didn't do. So like his narrative or how we think of him in the narrative changes, and it works really well. Especially like him being on his deathbed, telling Jim it was Artemis, and just please fucking kill me. Please kill me. Just like blow me away, New Liberty, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, why don't you send me on to hell? And again, like it's such a cool moment for McGrath because it makes him feel like a person in a movie that how is the secondary like henchman villain feel more subtle and complex than the actual villain? Because we get the like again, you and I both were talking about in the audio commentary and in the lost version of this how a lot of Loveless's arc as a villain is implied. That he has this obsession with spiders because he is so obsessed with what he is not.
Those moments where it asks us to think, and then like it spoon feeds us the examples of why McGrath's a good villain, and then as you said, like the secondary villain's better than the main villain. Well, maybe not better, but like more thought out.
Yeah.
Like as far as being a character goes, like two completely different characters, and like.
But they're both great. They're both great because McGrath has so much going on, and then Brana has so much fun with Loveless. I also keep talking over you, and I apologize. That is 10 out of 10 the internet delay.
Very conversational. I just like discussion, man.
Yeah.
About a movie that's conflicting.
But tying, and I brought it up earlier with the world building, and I think McGrath is a linchpin of the world building of this movie that I love. And
totally
maybe it's the Star Wars fan in me that really likes being dropped into the middle of a narrative, because that's kind of what Star Wars always does.
Yeah.
Is that you're kind of 15 minutes
in front of Star Wars movies.
Yeah, well, there's the crawl, but like, look at A New Hope. Crawl. Like, they call it. I thought you said crawl too, so you're good. Okay. They drop you. They give you the crawl. They drop you into the middle of a battle in A New Hope. Like it's called Episode 4. They drop you into the middle of a battle, and all they say is the rebels won something. Go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all you have to go off of, and then you got to pick up what's going on in the world around you as you go. I like
that too. It just didn't pay off from like that moment that we first get dropped in on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if it was so much payoff. I really like that environment where Jim shows up, and like they don't explain how McGrath and Jim have beef or anything like that. It's just once McGrath wakes up from being a dog because he took Gordon's hypnosis too literally, ARF, he goes ARF. That's what it says in the subtitles. When Jim just right hooks him, it says ARF, and he goes down. But the second McGrath wakes up, he starts screaming that it is Jim West who is there, and all his henchmen go, "Oh shit, it's Jim West!" And then they jump into action. Because they know him. They know of him. They've run into him. Flash forward. Later at Loveless's party. Jim, who does not know that Loveless is responsible for New Liberty, recognizes Loveless's name. So Loveless, in turn, is a big deal. Just like Jim is. And upon exiting his weird and extravagant like recreation of Abe Lincoln being assassinated shit, which is
a hell of an entrance.
Wow. Now granted, Loveless does have an excuse to know Jim because he's been one of the people who's kind of getting in the way of his plan. That said, there's still that moment of Loveless going, shit, Jim West. I like that a lot. I like
that too.
Yeah, there's just so much of these characters all feeling like they've lived in the same world because they have, and because of the Civil War. It's
totally agree.
It just there's so much meat on that bone. There's so much meat on that bone, and I can't get enough of it. Like, I think that's why I love the beginning half of this movie so much. Is because it feels like you're dropped in the middle of this grudge match, and while I enjoy the end, the back half, not quite as much as the first, I still think the fight on the spider is my favorite part, because you get the payoff of Jim and Artemis, again, and you and I were joking around before where maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I love the way that Artemis shoots the pump and not Loveless. And there's that moment where it's Jim going, or Artemis going, no. Jim, he's all yours, buddy. Like, hand him his ass.
I also believe that Jim or Artemis didn't want to kill Loveless. Recognizing someone should... Okay. Recognizing that the world would be in a better place if someone wasn't around anymore, is a lot different than like taking that decision into your own hand and ending someone's life. That being said, I think that Artemis genuinely didn't want to kill Loveless, thinks guns are primitive, really like, I don't think he views it the same way he did in the earlier on in the movie, where he's just like, if you like act on violence, then you have failed. In a sense, I don't think he views it as a failure anymore. But I do think that like he was just like, this is not my moment. Like, this does not fall onto my shoulders. It should fall on the Jim's shoulders. It's important that it falls on the Jim's shoulders. And like that almost conviction really, really worked for me. Another like very small, maybe reading too much into it, redeeming factor for me in the movie.
Yeah. And speaking of maybe looking too deep into it, I think that the way Loveless gets really aggressive and racist with Jim is a bigger part of Loveless's character than just really awkward jokes that give Jim the opening to make hilarious half-man jokes.
Yep.
Because I think that there's a part of Loveless as a character that it's very clear he's obsessed with his disability. And it shows in his obsession with an 8-legged apex predator. I want to be an apex predator.
Okay, Cheetah, chill out.
But there's this obsession with legs and power and being unkillable almost. And
yeah, and like building an empire, but also
building
like
an
empire.
He wants to make up for the fact that he is, in his mind, literally and figuratively half a man. And that eats him alive. Like, there are moments where he just brings it up out of nowhere.
Yep.
You know, Rita's like, oh, I missed you. He goes, well, so do I. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, he finds a way to bring up that he does not have the bottom half of his body all the time.
And I like that.
I do too. And I think that one of the reasons why he gets so aggressively racial with Jim is I think in his like fucked up little head, he thinks Jim's blackness affects him the way that his disability affects him. And I think there's a part of him that gets so angry at the fact that Jim just does not get phased their entire time they first meet at the party. Where it's just, you know,
yeah,
it's just boom, 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 boom. And Loveless is getting more and more unnerved with every half-man joke. And Will is still just smiling by the time that Loveless straight up says slave. I think sorry. I keep asking.
No, go ahead. No. He needs to belittle Jim in the same way that he, in a sense, like belittles himself or thinks that like his life crutch. You said it right on the head. Like he believes that like Jim's skin color is the same kind of disability that he has. So he uses that to like belittle him and like demean him. But Will, like I keep saying Will, Jim, like he's just like, it's the color of my skin, dude. Like, like you're not gonna hurt me with these stupid jokes, but I'm gonna put you in a casket with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like, and I love that Jim knows that, and I love that like, obviously, Loveless knows it too because he's the one that keeps almost like raising the stakes, and then Jim's just like, I'll call that, and like, cool scene. Does it go on for too long? A little bit. Are we reading too much into it? Yeah, but like that's what we do. It's fun.
Yeah, it makes it more entertaining.
Makes it more entertaining.
I can't remember what Jim says to Loveless when they're dangling outside of the spider from the wheelchair, but almost all of their conversations come back to it too.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think the only time that Jim and Loveless are talking to each other that is not race joke, half joke, race joke, half joke is when Loveless is stealing the Wanderer, but that's the scene where he calls him a blackamoor. Like, Loveless is still saying it. Jim doesn't have a chance to make a half-man joke.
Totally agree.
So like, and I can't. I think Jim says I have half a mind to kill you or something like that while they're dangling. There's still those jokes that they refuse to stop harassing each other because Jim's like, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm funnier and calmer than you are, you son of a bitch.
Yep.
It's so good. I love that war of words between them.
Trying to think what else we haven't talked about yet.
The train is cool. And again,
Train's very cool.
Again, it's just the gadgets. It's like steampunk cowboy, Wild Wild West.
Yeah,
There's steampunk cowboy Batman. It's the fucking Batmobile.
It's HQ. It's base. It's like it's something. It's a tangible thing that we see the characters in a lot. That's also like very interesting, or at least like entertaining in the things that it can do randomly. And like, I don't know. It's the Batmobile of this movie. I like the train.
I love it. I said before that I think Gemini Man would have been better as like a TV show or a miniseries.
Yes.
Wild Wild West would have been better as a video game.
Perfect description. I agree. I still think there's a movie version of this that could have been really great.
I agree on that front. I think 100%
that the concept
agree.
of like steampunk, cyberpunk cowboy, like there's a version of it that can be better than Wild Wild West. There's a version of it that can be better than Cowboys versus Aliens. There's a version of it that like works really well. But with what we're given with in Wild Wild West, I totally agree that a video game just seems like I can just hear like one-liners from Will Smith coming through the TV as you're like chasing down Loveless and like good example, good analogy.
Thank you. I also, and I do want, before, because I think we're going to start talking about the music video here, because I think we've said all we need to say.
I agree.
I want to also call attention to and give the movie credit for how much they give faith to the audience that we don't need to be spoon-fed stuff. Like, there's a lot of dialogue that you actually have to pay attention to, and paying attention to it has big payoff. Like, you start to put shit together. It's really frustrating. Like, you have the whole scene where, like, you understand everything Loveless is feeling in an instant whenever he betrays McGrath. With the whole, oh, I betrayed you, then what do you call Appomattox, you son of a bitch?
Boom.
Or it's like,
instantly makes their relationship better. Instantly makes McGrath more interesting as a character. And in a way, like, I don't know. Loveless was always interesting, but makes Loveless more interesting too. And then makes how Jim ties into the whole thing more interesting. Completely agree with you. Like,
because I think at first, and it's the obvious assumption that the writers and director want you to assume about Loveless is that, especially because he's working with McGrath, this is all some type of the South will rise again bullshit.
Yeah.
But the second it turns into, no, I'm going to wipe out the Confederates who are helping me and then bring up Appomattox as a betrayal, this isn't about the Confederacy and the Union anymore. This is about his fucking legs.
Yeah.
Like, it's all personal. Like, he wants to tear down the country he went to war with that made him lose his legs. And the closest person to him that was a part of him losing his legs can also die slow.
And he kills all of his men in front of him.
Makes him watch.
To the point where he's pointing the gun at his head and he's like, stop it, like right now. And he presses like the cherry gizmo thing and like, you know, the opposite happens. And by like, just for good measure, I'm going to dump your ass in the river with my attractive assistance.
Yes. I also, and again, like it's easy foreshadowing, but I love the way the conversation happens between McGrath and Loveless in the office with the, sir, you are a pip and I will follow you into the jaws of Cerberus himself. And so you shall. Like, yeah, you both got yourselves killed by being racist pieces of shit. Congratulations.
Full circle.
Full circle. So all that said, Devin, you were unaware of this song before watching and reviewing Wild Wild West.
You graciously made me aware of it to the point where I texted you. I was at the gym and it came on my shuffle, and it was probably like the day after we did the audio commentary.
That sounds
And it was
right.
just like, oh my God, I would not turn it off. I was like, screw it. It's catchy. It's fun. It was sampled by the great Stevie. And like, it worked, dude. It was so fun. Seeing Carlton in there for a second. He's talking to baby Jaden in there in the beginning. Like, it's on Millennium. Like,
yes,
and like he's talking about, he's like, I got so many hits, man. Which one should I add? Because he thinks that Wild Wild West is gonna be a banger too. And it just fucking isn't. Like, it's so fun, but like
Wild Wild West was huge. That's the joke with it being on Millennium, is that it got so much airplay leading up to that the joke is, I don't think I need to put Wild Wild West on this new album.
yeah.
It's Wild Wild West. That's the version that's on Millennium. The soundtrack version does not have the whole the intro with Jaden talking about wanting to hear Wild Wild West again. Which makes the Millennium version funnier to me, because it feels like Will's like kind of over the song. It's like, all right, man, fine. Oh my God, I love so this song is why I love the movie, because I think as a little kid I heard this song and fell in love with it, and like there are videos of me as a very small child running around in a diaper and a cowboy hat, like sprinting across the living room, just going, Wild Wild West, Wild Wild West, Wild Wild West.
That video.
Oh, that will stay under lock and key. But we're gonna add a $20 tier to the Patreon. No, I'm kidding. But
And then we get that.
Then you get to see the footage of me running around screaming Wild Wild West as a baby. But I love it so much. It's so funny. And the music video itself, fun, makes up most of the intro title sequence footage.
Yes, reused footage again, ran out of budget. And the song does no wrong.
The song does no wrong.
Leaves us a little confused.
Because the music video feels like it's in a different timeline than the actual ending of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if the song comes out, you don't want it to spoil anything. But like,
the whole point of the song is to recap the movie.
Yeah, like, ugh.
Because so for those of you at home who need, like, once this is over, watch the Wild Wild West music video. But
oh yeah, don't watch the movie. Well, like, watch it if you're interested, and like watch it with us if you really want to, because we'd love to have you. But like, the music video is enough. Like, you will have fun with the music video, especially when Carlton comes in. I'm just like, you son of a gun.
I'm so upset that the original version of this episode had your realization that Alfonso Ribeiro was in the music video.
I went back, I looked it up, and I was like, no shit. Like, how did I miss that the first time? Made it so much better. Stevie Wonder's
playing piano too. Like, he's right there. It's so good. But the music video picks up with Jim, Will, whomever he's playing at this point, having nightmares about Loveless. And then while he's like throwing water in his face, Loveless's goons show up and kidnap Rita, whom now he's with. I don't know what happened with Guillermo, but for whatever reason, Rita and Jim are now a thing. And Loveless is back. It's like the meme from The Rise of Skywalker. Somehow Loveless has returned.
Mm-hmm.
But Loveless is back. We never actually see him because they couldn't get Kenneth Branagh to come back for the music video. But Selma Hayek was open and ready. So Jim burns down a town to find Loveless and is dancing in the fire, recapping the movie, hunting down Loveless to get Rita back. And then Loveless is gone again. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does Will like drop a chandelier on Loveless or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Loveless is dead again, or we don't know.
We don't know. I don't think the music video is canon, but
see the music again. Keep the video game thing. Sure. Keep the video game thing. The music video. The plot of the music video is DLC.
Yep.
It's a story expansion.
Perfect analogy yet again. Nail hitting it on the head.
Thank you so much. But yeah, please check out the music video. Here's what I will say. Watch the music video. If you were entertained by the tone and silliness of the music video, that's probably your primer to watch the movie.
Yeah. The movie's just the 2-hour-long music video. Basically.
One that I personally cannot recommend this movie enough. If you can get past cringe 90s humor and really weird writing for women, I think it's worth a watch. And with that, Devin, your letter grade for Wild Wild West, my friend. And final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Scooby-Doo, man. Fun, goofy. Get some friends together. Like, watch it with the intention of like the intentions that we've given you so far. And you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a really good hour, like 47, I think, something like that. Like, easy watch. That being said, as a film that was made with the intention of having good box office earnings, as every film should, and like appeasing the general audiences, it doesn't do it. It failed. It didn't do it. It's a little cult classic-y now. Very nostalgic for some people.
I'm some people.
22 years later, just now watching it, like, I get it. I definitely get it. But again, as a film, general audiences, and like there's only like those like small laundry, like not a laundry list, small little list of things that really redeem the movie for me and make it like, wow. And so that being said, I think Wild Wild West is going to get a C- from me. It's between C- and D+ right now, just because like I hate having to give people a warning before they watch the movie.
I get that. I know, but that makes sense. And I think that's a really fair thing to go like, I don't think this is a good movie. I enjoy it. Or like, that's how I look at it. So you going, I don't think this is a good movie, but in the right conditions, I can enjoy it. I get it.
So like, yeah, for that statement alone, I'm going to stay in a C-. It is so fun, dude. Like some moments you're just like really enjoying it and you're just like, what? Like, so it's not D+ territory for me. It is C- for me. That's where Wild Wild West is going to live in my heart and mind. This music video gets an A+. Just put that out there. But Jarod.
Yes.
After everything we've talked about, how would you rank this film?
If I were to pretend that my first time watching this movie was like for this, and this wasn't a movie I watched a lot as a kid, this would turn into, to steal a term from the great Chris Stuckman, I think this movie could safely live in a hilariosity. Like, I don't know if it's quite bad and quite ridiculous enough to be a hilariosity, but like, it's almost right there.
Yeah.
And so bad that it's good. However, I do have a lot of nostalgia going in, and I do have a lot of like very specific tastes for certain types of stories and certain types of characters and certain types of dynamics that, because of the world building, because of the chemistry that the cast has, because of the scenery chewing villain, and just cool concepts galore. Again, steampunk cowboy. Holy shit. I can't not like this movie. I have things that keep me from liking it as much as I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I have things that I'm capable of overlooking because of blind nostalgia, and I can admit that. All that said, solid performances, even when characters don't have a lot to work with. Salma Hayek still turns in a good performance. Kenneth Branagh is so goddamn over the top, and I love it. Will's great. Kevin's great. C plus, almost a B minus.
Okay. I like that.
And I can admit how much of that score is based around a little kid who wore out the VHS for this movie, could not watch it for years, found it in the bargain bin on DVD at Giant Eagle and almost started crying tears of joy. And then went back to aggressively watching this movie all the time. That
like
said, thank you. And
appreciate that
again, the
opinion
music video, the song, best part is the best thing to come out of this whole project. And the more people who know that song, the better.
Facts. Share your friends. Tell everyone you love.
Because I feel like everybody knows Men in Black, like the song.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're a certain age, you remember that Wild Wild West exists.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the one most people forget is the one he did for Men in Black 2, Black Suits Coming, Nod Your Head. Or I'm sorry, Black Suits Coming, and then in parentheses, Nod Your Head, featuring Trey Knox. This whole podcast was a clever ploy to talk about Will Smith's discography. This has been the plan the whole time.
You tricked me.
Listen, hey, and then eventually we're going to do another thing of Will Smith movies at some point where we can talk about Hitch, and I can talk about how there's a scene in Hitch that is just a written version of one of his songs on his final album, Lost and Found. Have you seen Hitch?
Yeah, I've seen Hitch. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
So the scene where he's trying to teach Kevin James how to dance.
Yeah.
Where he's like, you live here. None of this.
Usher's playing.
None of that. Yeah, and Yes playing by Usher. Almost the entirety of the monologue he has about you live here, blah, 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 just slide, is literally the same thing as one of the songs he has on Lost and Found called If You Can't Dance, just you, the letter U, if the letter U can't dance, in parentheses, slide.
Did the song come first?
I'm pretty sure Hitch and Lost and Found came out. They both came out in 2005. I don't know which came first. But the scene and the song are almost identical. Like the fact that they had the restraint to not just play If You Can't Dance Slide in the movie astounds me. Because they could have just played the song.
It's informational tidbits like that that make me really happy Will Smith passed on The Matrix. And like it's that mixed in with hearing that Val Kilmer was eyed up from Morpheus because like they weren't apparently going to cast like two black characters in leading roles, which whatever, kind of dumb. Lawrence Fishburne's the goat.
Gross.
And like I would have hated Val Kilmer as Morpheus. Well, maybe not, but like I like to think that I would have. And freaking Will Smith, man.
Dude, okay, Lost and Found.
Got some wins. Got some losses.
He has some losses. Lost and Found is not one of them. That also because he made his grandmother a promise that he would refrain from cursing on his rap music as much as he could. Lost and Found has the only song in which he drops an F-bomb in any of his music. And it is on Tell Me Why featuring Mary J. Blige, which is about explaining 9/11 to children. This is the same record that has Switch on it. Like his last big hit. So we have the song with Mary J. It's about explaining 9/11 to children. And he has a line where he says, and why the fuck can't love seem to defeat hate? But because he wants to honor his promise to not swear on his rap, he bleeps out the word fuck. Now, when I say bleeps out, I don't mean the audio cuts out. I mean there is a loud and obnoxious beep that happens on the track that makes it kind of hilarious by accident. Because again, it's corny ass, getting jiggy with it Will Smith, who's trying to do like a really intense social song about, like it's also about the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, because he's like talking to us like, okay, like we're seeing like bombs drop in the Middle East. And then one of his kids, I think he says it's Jaden as a baby, who looks up at Will while he's watching the footage, who goes, "Daddy, now we killing him back, right?" And it's like, whoa, what? The same dude, Mr. Getting Jiggy with It, who can't help but keep that song corny and have the bleep in there. It's beautiful. I love him. That also has If You Can't Dance Slide. That has him with a whole song about getting his swagger back. The opening song on it is called Here He Comes, where he samples the 1960s Spider-Man theme, and it is just as silly as you think it is. He has a song called Pump Your Brakes featuring Snoop Dogg. It's amazing.
I hope I stand with a lot of our audience in being like, didn't know this was a thing. Because I genuinely had never heard of a lot of this before. And like, as much as my eyes like just sink at these concepts, I'm going to go listen to it.
You should. Lost and Found is such a fun listen. It does not have some of his greatest work, but it is just a fun record to put on because it's silly Will Smith. Part of me wants to make like an actual, like, here are Will Smith's really good songs playlist, because he gets such a bad reputation as a musician, but I don't care because I love him. And I would punch a baby for a new Will Smith record to drop in 2021. That's not even a joke. He's been doing features. He's been rapping on other people's tracks recently. He was on a Logic track like 2-3 years ago. Joyner Lucas did a song about how Will Smith is his biggest inspiration, and most of the song and music video are references to Will Smith movies. And then they did a remix that's Will Smith rapping on the song about Will Smith, which is just so full circle for everything.
Meta as hell.
Right? In conclusion, thank you for watching the Nerd Academy Movie Club podcast, where this first month was just me getting all of my obsession with Will Smith out in the open. For February, our theme is going to be Ryan Coogler movies. We're going to try to get 3 in this time. We're going to try to get 3. And it's going to be Creed, Creed 2, and Fruitvale Station. It's Station, right?
Fruitvale Station, yeah.
Fruitvale Station. I can never say it right. And then by the time I get through the first part, I think it's like Stop or Street and not Station, because I'm an idiot.
I have not seen Fruitvale Station. Jarod has not seen Creed. So like very, very, very excited for like bounce these ideas off of each other and talk about Ryan Coogler movies, because I really enjoy Ryan Coogler.
Yes.
And like breaking down some one of his films isn't necessarily something I've done before. A lot of his movies I tend to just like have fun with, Rocky films, Marvel movies. But like definitely in my mind, like a good director. And I'm very excited to talk about these films,
Absolutely. Plus, I think we have one of the best producers and composers scoring all 3, which would be Ludwig Göransson.
I'm going to have to check. I think you're right. I'm going to check.
I'm pretty sure Ludwig did both Creeds and then Fruitvale.
Well, Jarod, where can our awesome fans find you?
You guys can find me at Dark Jedi 2552 on Twitter and Instagram. And Devin, where can the lovely people find you? And I'm not going to make you do all the Nerd Academy plugs like I do to everybody else to throw them off guard, because you haven't heard me do the spiel enough times yet.
You guys can find me at Devin Armel 1 on Twitter and Devin J Armel on Instagram.
And you guys can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and on our website, www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon page. Speaking of our $10 alumnus, thank you to the Waffle Wizard, Delta 9, Kason Breon, and Zach Knaus. You guys help us make the content that we love to produce every week. Check out the $5 tier if you please, where you get access to the Knights of the Nerd Republic Versus series. Our episode of that will be dropping on February 1st is going to be Barriss Offee versus Rey Skywalker. We already have Darth Krayt versus Darth Revan out there. And the March episode will be a lot of fun, and I'm going to let you listen to the episode to figure out what it is. We have our upcoming episode of Heroic History 101, following Heroes in Crisis, which is going to be a fun review. And we have the audio commentaries that tie in to Movie Club. We have our Gemini Man one up there. We have our Wild Wild West one up there. And then we'll be doing Creed, Creed 2, and Fruitville Station as well. If you would like to support the Nerd Academy podcast even further, you can click on the student store link on our website, and that'll take you to our TeePublic, almost said Patreon. Take you to our TeePublic page. You can get all manner of Nerd Academy goodies. You want this here pillow? You want this here pillow? Come get this here pillow, because it's very comfy. It looks a lot better than this one that has not had my big ass all over it. But all manners of t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeves, masks, phone cases, coffee mugs, stickers, baby clothes, laptop cases, wall art, you name it, you can get it at our TeePublic. And with that, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you guys next time.
Oof.